just relay them. You mind joining me up? Or you need
Absolutely.
Okay, you need slides or anything? Because
No,
this
I
piece
have
should-
slides for the sermon.
Good. Did they get all that stuff from you already? All right. Good. You want the lapel? Or you want,
I'll just use the
Sure?
Yeah.
Okay.
George suggests I just use that.
It'll be turned on for you. You know what? I'm going to sit. I was going to sit during your presentation. Great. Yeah, let's use this because I'll just introduce him. He's got a 15-minute presentation.
Okay.
I'll leave, and then when he's done, I'll come back up. Yeah, so what is, I'm going to introduce him. He's going to do a 15-minute presentation.
I'll do 5 or 7.
Okay, you do 5 or 7. And then I'll rejoin him. Is it all right if I leave you?
Yes. Is it okay to take this off?
Yeah. Yes.
And I'll stand.
Yeah. Well, welcome back. We're so glad you stayed, and you'll be delighted that you did. We want to welcome you to this phase of our program, for those of you who are here with us in person and those of you who are worshiping with us online. We're so excited today to welcome Stephen Laing. He's the Vice President of Education for our conference, Potomac Conference, a very well-experienced individual on the topic. For the next few minutes, Stephen will talk about Christian education, the benefits of it. You may hear some things you're familiar with. You may hear some things you're not familiar with. But we invite you to enjoy that presentation. At the conclusion of that 7-minute presentation we'll then open it up to questions. Questions from those of you who are here in person with us. And we'll be monitoring Facebook. And if you have some questions, even as he makes his presentation, if you have some questions, go ahead and post those on Facebook. We're actively monitoring that stream as I speak, and we'll be taking your questions and sharing it with Stephen so he can provide you those answers. Stephen, the time is yours.
Thank you, sir. Here we go. Good. Well, it's nice to be here this morning, and Deborah, I want to thank you for the invitation to come and speak about our schools. Kind of giving you a report on what's happening within our 17 schools that we have here in the Potomac Conference, and then as it was said, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. I promise not to talk too long, but I would like to give you, again, some background as to what's happening. I'm here with my wife, April, and we are happy you have a lovely church. I know a wonderful ministry here. I've been able to visit this church when we've come up for meetings with the Potomac Conference. So it's nice to be here. As I mentioned, we have 17 schools within the conference. So they range everywhere from schools way up in the metro area in southern Maryland, of course in Northern Virginia, over Virginia Beach, and then we even have one up in, how many of you have ever heard of Powell Valley? Powell Valley, it is the furthest reach, even from the conference office in Stanton. It takes me a good 3.5, 4 hours to get there. I feel like I'm going up to Walton's Mountain. I love it. It's very sweet. And in that particular case, we have one teacher who is ministering to 10 students there. They are, I believe they are all non-Adventist. And she's able to reach out to them and share the love of Jesus with them. So it's a wonderful experience. So we have those 17 schools, and they have an opportunity to witness about Jesus Christ and helping to prepare those young people for his service. Now, as we well know, with the COVID last spring, the last 3 months of the school year last year, everything was shut down. And then all of our educators had to reinvent the wheel, create a new paradigm on how they were going to minister to these young people because the ministry continues on, correct? Of course, Satan is trying to halt that ministry, but it's interesting through technology. It's It's not the best thing, of course. We love to have our kids in school, but it worked and is still continuing to work. So for those 3 months, all the schools were virtual. And then what we asked, because we did not know what the future held, we did ask all of those schools, please work on contingency plans. We worked with them and in conjunction with the CDC and government guidelines. So they were able to continue, and through the summer, we were able to give them support, not only how they were going to structure things, but some financial support with other needs that they had. And sure enough, when we were getting ready to start school, we're still dealing with the pandemic. So our governing body for the Potomac Conference for the schools, called the Board of Education, we met, and they voted at that time to allow each of the individual local school boards decide how they were going to move forward. In that, does that mean that they are going to open their doors and have kids come back? Are they going to have a hybrid program where some kids will come back and some will be taught virtually, or will it be all virtual? So at that time, those local school boards embraced this invitation to be able to decide what they were going to do, and 13 out of the 17 decided to open their doors and model what would work best for them, whether it be hybrid or having all the kids come in. And then, again, the logistics. If you have all the kids come in, you've got to have spacing. And if you've got to have spacing, you may have to have additional room, and then you have to supervision, and yada, yada. It just continues on. The challenges that are there. Of those 4 that did go virtual, 1 has then since gone hybrid, and then we have 3 that are continuing right now at this point to go ahead and continue with their virtual. But the quality of the education, and I really have to do a shout out to all of our educators. We know, either as educators or parents or just being within the church, and you hear, and sometimes you see if you visit the classrooms, there's a lot of work involved in ministering to young people in the classroom. Now you throw in the virtual factor. And it's you know, I could go on and on about that, but I'm so thankful to our educators and how hard they have been working, and they don't complain. They see this as a ministry, and truly they are stepping up to the plate. In 2015, there was a constituency meeting, and in that constituency meeting here in the Potomac Conference, it was voted that there would be a plan put in place creating a paradigm, if you will, again, of healthy school objectives that we want to see in each of our schools to strive for. And it's not assuming that they're all going to be there right at that point, but to strive for. And I just want to share a few of these points in the healthy school model that has been established, and we are continuing to work on this with our individual schools. And one of them is, of course, safety. We want to make sure that the schools are safe, a safe environment for the kids to learn in. Another one is to make sure that financially the school is solvent, is their accounts receivable, their accounts payable, everything is in order. What are their goals as far as growth? You know, maybe 2 to 4% every year, have an increase. And then if you have the nice problem, because your facility can only handle so many kids, maybe that school is maxing out and they can't take any more kids and still provide that quality education. We actually have one school that happens to be the case. Again, that's a nice problem. But looking for other ways then to minister to those students as well. With the start of this school year, and again, the pandemic and what has been happening, it did impact our schools, a lot of our schools, I should say, to the point where some parents did not feel comfortable sending their kids, maybe doing virtual or deciding other options, and it financially hit some of our schools. Conversely, we actually had certain schools that budgeted for a certain amount, and they got more kids than they expected. So you had juxtaposition of those scenarios, but we did continue to persevere. One of probably the most, and I will say it is the most important objective in the Healthy School lineup, bullet points, is this. We want to make sure that in that ministry of education, every child has the opportunity to be invited to get to know Jesus Christ. Amen? And also, within that invitation, continue to foster that relationship with Jesus Christ. And I'm sure you've heard this before, but it's interesting that our children, when they're going to school, many times the teacher has more opportunity to witness to them, but also just to be around them more than even their parents are. And so it's a golden opportunity to be able to witness to these children about Jesus Christ. Another factor within this healthy school paradigm is a tracking program, and it's a 10-year tracking program. So specifically, just to let you know, out of our 17 schools that we have, 3 of them are senior academies. So that would be Richmond Academy, SVA, and TA. So the plan is, and we did this in another conference that I was in, it was a 5-year program, but the 10-year program is to be more inclusive. So it is checking after these students, so 10 years out, so if we were to start this program today, and we're still working on the fine features of this template so we can institute it, 10 years out from when they graduate, so say the class of 2011, 10 years later, we're working to find out, number one, reach out to these graduates from Academy and find out, okay, where are you academically, professionally? Did you go to a vocational school? Did you decide to go to college? What type of career did you choose? And where are you now? And how did the preparation for you going into undergraduate school enhance what you were experiencing? Also, along with that tracking program, is to find out where they are in the church, or maybe not in the church. And this is obviously not to find fault, but to start to pinpoint, if they're not in the church, ask the pointed questions. Why? Did you feel that you weren't supported, or just what was your story? And then in certain instances, look at where those gaps are so we can fill them. And I'll give you a perfect example. In another conference that I was in, there were great programs for these kids to be able, when they're in a senior academy situation, they had that social support, they had that spiritual support. But when they graduated, some of them did not go off to an Adventist school. For whatever reason, they decided to stay. But many of their friends went away. And so they're not in a school setting. Maybe they went to a local public school, for college. So when that happens, we found in that particular instance, there were kids that were starting to get disenchanted, disillusioned, maybe not coming to church as much, feeling withdrawn because they had lost that life support line. And in some cases, they may leave the church. So we're looking in this tracking program to find out where they are and how we can help. And so those are some of the things that we have going on in the conference. Again, we have very dedicated educators, and I will say that the Potomac Conference is extremely supportive of our educational system here. I will tell you, I've been in other conferences where financially, maybe there is not the same financial support in other conferences as here. And here, there's been great support. And too, with the pandemic, the conference was able to apply to the PPE program, and monies that were coming in to help support our churches as well as our schools were provided. And then our conference itself helped to provide certain monies, again, as I mentioned, for preparation for schools with needs as far as the cleanliness of the school, with the kids coming back, but also to help with other needs at the schools too. So that is it in a nutshell, but there's so much more to share with you and to let you know the Lord is doing a mighty work in our schools, and it's a wonderful ministry. Now, I'm biased. I'm going to say that Christian education, Adventist Christian education, is the #1 ministry. But I don't want to step on anybody else's toes, because all ministries are valuable, but this one is crucial. And we have to continue to make sure that it continues to thrive and gives the opportunity, again, to share Jesus with our young people. So that is my presentation. Now, I was told that there might be questions. I promise I will be nice, and I'm not, like a classroom, I'm not going to point at you and put you on the spot and expect you to ask a question. But if you feel comfortable, we will be happy to answer.
Stephen. And in case you're joining us, you just joined us, we want to welcome you again today. It's Education Day here at Living Hope. You heard Stephen said it's a special ministry day, and we have a special guest on a special ministry day. For those of you who just joining us in person as well, welcome. Stephen, question for you. You were just polling some of these questions. Here's one that I get asked a lot, and quite frankly, you may help me get a better answer after today. Here's the question. There's a good Presbyterian church in my neighborhood. They've got a very good school. I like their program. They teach Christ. If I enroll my kid in that program, would he or she be getting a Christian education?
I'm sure that they would. I'm sure that they would be getting, I'm sure that Jesus has shared with them there as well. And I know that the Lord, I'm very confident that the Lord will use whatever it takes to draw people to Him. And there is a spiritual journey for each one of us. No two, I think it's just like a fingerprint, no two journeys are the same. Are spiritual journeys, but they do lead to Jesus Christ. I think with Adventist education, and I speak from personal experience, and I will just share a little bit of this more in the sermon, but for me, I found that through the experience of going to an Adventist Christian school, even though I grew up in an Adventist home, I personally began to embrace and better understand the purpose of the Sabbath. The blessings that come from the spirit of prophecy and how they help to support and shed a lesser light, but shed a light on the Bible. And so I in no way would ever want to be critical of another ministry out there that is not Adventist, but I think that there is a uniqueness to the Adventist educational system that is amazing, and I think that is something that carries that young person through their entire life to eternity.
Thank you. Here's something else that we talk about a lot, Stephen, the funding, and you mentioned it, is often sometimes become one of the factors that make the decision go one way or the other. Here at Living Hope, we have an Adventist Education Subsidy Fund that we covered. We've got a lot of homeschoolers. You mentioned that, and so we give depending on certain factors, income and need, we do supply an annual subsidy. Now, you mentioned that Potomac is very progressive in this area. Could you share with us a little bit of what some of these programs are, so some of the people online or here might understand how they might get access to other sources of funding?
Absolutely. So with the pandemic, additional funds were provided to the schools to help them save for about a month and a half's worth of teacher salaries. But also there are opportunities, and I will tell you as a principal, when you have prospective parents coming in with their child and thinking about enrolling, and you have to look at their particular financial situation and see how that you can help as well. That also is very important. But within the Potomac Conference, we also have an educational foundation that has been set up. A gentleman by the name of Seth Savoy. I don't know if any of you know Seth, but he actually is the treasurer at Richmond Academy, and he heads this out, and he shares with our Board of Ed every year on how this works. But they have it set up so that if you go ahead as somebody that's interested in supporting Christian education in this particular way, you can donate a certain amount of money, let's say $500, towards the Education Foundation. And you do get a tax benefit from doing this, but more importantly, this money goes to help each individual school that participates, and they get a certain percentage back from this, and it goes towards student scholarships. So it's a very unique situation, and we're talking about substantial amounts of money that help to supplement what the local constituent churches are doing with their church subsidies. These are additional funds that are coming in to help these children so that they can stay in Christian education.
Wonderful. So, in case you missed that, if you go to our website, livinghopesda.org, and there you'll find a way to contact us. info@sda, livinghopesda.com. So the website, info@livinghopesda.org. Visit that site, contact us, and we'll help you get that information, some additional information of how you or your family member or your kid might be able to access this program that Stephen has identified. Matter of fact, we are aware of some of our members here at Living Hope who do contribute into that program. So it is a real program. And yes, I have met Seth before. So yes, the program is real. We'd like to see you tap into it. Visit our website, and we'll get you that information. Now, before I ask Stephen another question, is there any in-person questions that I don't want to ask him all these questions that came in over the wire, but is there anybody in the audience that would like to ask a specific question? Yes, please state your name, and I'll try to get as close to you, but honor the 6 feet.
Okay, my name's Rebecca. I actually have a friend who's attending a boarding school right now, and for those who might not know, I wanted you kind of to tell a little bit about the benefit during this pandemic between attending a boarding school like SVA or attending a day school like Tacoma Academy, and maybe it's something that might interest people to know.
So your question is, what would be the difference or the benefit to boarding versus a day school? Mm-hmm. Okay. And I think, I try to be unbiased when I answer this question from the standpoint of making it personal. So I think day schools are wonderful. And I also think, too, that we as educators, administrators, we do want to be sensitive to the fact of what is best for what the family feels is going to complement their situation. So when I say personal, and I'm going to try not to get into my sermon, but I'm going to just share a little bit without you thinking. When you hear it in the sermon, you go, oh, I heard this already, so I'll just be brief. From me personally, in my home life, when I was about 11, my parents divorced. And there was no strong Adventist quality education available, so went to public school. And then when we got to, we, meaning my siblings, got to academy age, we had an opportunity to go to an Adventist school, but it was far away. And so we went to a boarding school, and for us, it was an extreme blessing. So, and I will share more of that later. But for other individuals, the idea of their child going away from home, you know, the argument, the reasoning, I should say, can be, you know what? These are such formative years. I send my child away at 14, and then by 18, and then they're ready to go to college, and where's my child? And I know that each parent wants to be there for their child for those crucial times. So I totally respect where that parent is coming from and that individual choice. And I truly think that when we put those issues to prayer, God guides us individually. So, but that's a very good question, because it's not, well, this is better than that. I think it's wonderful that both are provided so that we have the opportunity to choose and see what's best. A great question. Can I do a little plug here, too?
Yes, please.
Because you were mentioning about homeschoolers more than once. Am I talking too much?
Yes, we have.
Yes, I am talking too much?
I'm glad you mentioned that, Stephen, because our church happened to have a significant number of homeschoolers. So tell us something about it.
Great. Now, this is something that still has to be voted by our Board of Education, which meets throughout the school year about 4 times, and we're meeting March 25th. However, there has been a proposal made by one of our schools. I won't say which one, but it's Richmond Academy. They have a great virtual program. And one of the things they do is they're able to provide virtual instruction, okay, with, I know one of them is Vienna Adventist Academy. Anyway, one of those teachers, a very talented young man, has put forth a proposal, very excited about this. He approached me and he said, Steve, would it be possible, I was thinking, and this is how our educators are, how else can we reach out and touch more lives and have them get to know Jesus in a wonderful way? We have a Bible curriculum through the NED called Encounter. And this teacher said, I have a proposal in place, and he can do it. I know he can. to be able to provide the Encounter program specifically to Adventist youth that don't have an Adventist school nearby and or they're homeschooling. And he said the plan would be for those students to be able to tune in to his Bible class and be able to be a part of the Encounter program. If the interest grows, let's say instead of 5 kids, it's 14 or more, then they would have it set up within their curriculum, their program there at Richmond Academy, that they could create a class just for those homeschoolers and be able to tune in and be a part. And it's Bible class. It's learning about Jesus. It's wonderful. So we're very enthusiastic about this as we take it to the Board of Ed for discussion and vote. But I can't foresee the future, but I'm very confident that it would hopefully be embraced.
Wonderful. Well, Stephen, thank you so much again for your time. That's just a snippet of some of the wonderful information you will hear from him during this presentation, and he'll be with us for the course of the day. We have to close this section now as we transition into a service. We've got a cue from our pastor here that we need to move on. So thanks again, Stephen, and thank you for your questions. Those of you who are with us online, we thank you for staying with us. Remember that website, livinghopesda.org. Visit us, drop us a line, and we'll get you some more information from Stephen. Thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of our Sabbath as we transition into worship. God bless.